Welcome to the 2 Pages of Mystery podcast, now part of the Coil Entertainment Network. I'm your host, Rob Steele. Getting started the same way we always do, I need to make sure that you understand that the purpose of this show is to get your stories published. It's hard to get published these days unless you've already been published, which it never makes any sense no matter how much I say it. So, if you send me a short story, I will not only publish it as an ebook, I will turn it into an audiobook on this show, and then you'll have something to put on your writing resume, and that will make getting you published by a big firm so much easier. How do you get on the show? Just email me your story. Submit at 2pagesofmystery.com. Very simple email. Be sure to also check out the rules. Those are on the website, 2pagesofmystery.com. And while you're there, you know what? Send your friends and family and everyone you know to the site so they can read the stories and listen to the audiobooks because they're fun. While we're at it, let's go ahead and tell everybody to subscribe to the show on iTunes or through the Google Play Store or even the Happy Hour Network because they pass along the show too. And don't forget to follow all the shows on the Coil Entertainment Network through Pinterest or YouTube because they're there. And now on to today's story, where a very publicly displayed body is discovered at the biggest hotel in town, which means the whole team gets to work on a case involving a body that just doesn't want to stay on the ground. Can you figure out who did it before Lieutenant Wright and his team? Give a listen to Elevator Man. Let it never be said that this job isn't surprising. We got a call from the Southside Marlin Hotel with something I've never heard before. There's a dead man riding in one of the elevators. I suppose if you're a corpse with an elevator fetish, the Marlin is a good one. Tallest building in town, glass elevator, starts inside, but around the 14th floor, it emerges and becomes an outside elevator with a great view. The manager of the hotel, Crystal Jenkins, phoned it in. She's already apologetic, saying she'd first heard that there was an injured guy in the elevator from a group of college kids in town for the football game, and completely blew it off since the elevator had gone back up. It wasn't until a rather frazzled old woman said that there was a dead guy in the elevator that she took it seriously. Even then, it seemed like someone was just playing with the elevator as it took 3 more trips between floors before it finally landed in the lobby. Since it's a rather public body, we have the full rollout on this one. Manny Vasquez and I in the lead car, but not far behind us is Dr. Song-Ho Young and the CSI team. When we arrive, there is a fairly big commotion in the lobby with a group of hotel security holding back people who want that perverse look at a dead guy, including the obligatory tourist in the gaudy Hawaiian shirt. What is it about tourists in Hawaiian shirts? The elevator is propped open with a doorstop, and as we glove up and look in, sure enough, there's a dead guy slumped against the outer glass wall. He appears to be a bit on the scrawny side, and, if I'm honest, a little nerdy. It looks like he's been stabbed a couple times. We checked the elevator quickly for signs of a murder weapon, but didn't find anything. Time to let Doc Young and the CSIs take over while we go talk to the manager. Ms. Jenkins is in her office with a bottle of scotch and a half-empty glass on her desk. She looks startled as we enter and quickly grabs the bottle and glass and tried to hide both, resulting in the glass being upturned on her dress. I cover my mouth and try not to snicker. Ma'am, after what we just found, I can understand you wanting a drink, and I'm not going to tell anyone. I just need a few questions answered. Miss Jenkins looks thoroughly embarrassed and resets the bottle and glass on her desk before opening a drawer and getting a small towel to clean herself up a bit. Her hotel uniform is a bit damp in a couple places, but it's not like there'll be a stain.
Sorry, this hasn't been a good day. My husband is sick, the car got a flat tire on the way in, and now this. I suppose I should start with, I have no idea who that guy in the elevator is. I've checked our registry. Here's a copy, by the way. The disc has our security footage for the past 24 hours. We only have a 24-hour system, so I made a copy as soon as I found out it wasn't a prank. That way you could get as far back as possible. I should also tell you that I have no idea how long he was in the elevator. Our camera in the elevator has been out for a week. Most of our system is down. That footage only shows the lobby and the outside. I'd appreciate it if that were kept quiet. I've been after Mr. Card to get it fixed, but he's trying to save money for another project of his, and we're on the back burner.
We'll see what we can do. Would you happen to know how we can get in touch with those, what were they, college kids in town for the game? Since they seem to be the one who found him.
I only have the name of the one who paid for the room, Ron King. Thing is, he and his group are at the game. He said something about the man mumbling, 5. Like I said on the phone, I didn't give it any thought. I thought they were trying to play a prank like they did last night. They brought live lobsters and set them loose in the lobby. That freaked out several of our guests, which is always fun.
She grabbed the bottle and poured herself another drink. Manny and I thanked her for her time and excused ourselves. You thinking what I'm thinking, Manny? 5th floor? 5th floor. We catch an elevator, one without a dead guy in it, to the 5th floor. Our elevator was the one next to the one occupied by our dead guy, so when it opened on 5, we expect to find a blood trail. Stab victims tend to bleed a lot, but there was nothing. We knocked on doors up and down the hall, but the people in the few occupied rooms didn't know anything about it. Most weren't even fully dressed, and without probable cause, we can't search the rooms. So where does that leave us? I get a call from Doc Young, who says the victim still had his phone and wallet on him. The wallet had an ID that names our victim as Alan Winter, and he's already checked with the front desk, and there are no Winters currently registered in the hotel. Manny and I return to the elevator and head back to the lobby. I stretch my neck and look at the ceiling of the elevator. It's mirrored. I see the reflection of Manny and the buttons in the ceiling, and the floor indicator. It's one of those old digital clock-like displays. That's when I hit the 2 button. Manny looks at me puzzled. I explained to him maybe he saw the 2 reflected in the ceiling and thought he was on 5 when he got stabbed. It sounded like a long shot, but when the doors opened on 2, there was a teenage maintenance man with an industrial-strength steam cleaner scrubbing what looked like blood out of the carpet in the hall. Unfortunately, it looks like he started down the hall and was working his way to the elevators. He notices our badges and removes his headphones. Like, can I help you, sirs? I ignore him for the moment and turn to Manny. Get the CSIs up here and take that vacuum from the kid and get it tested. I turn back to, according to the name tag, Kenny, and ask, where did the trail start? What room number? He does look a bit scared. It's 6. Am I in trouble? He asks Manny. I don't wait to hear Manny's answer. I'm already moving down the hall, weapon drawn. I get to room 206, and there are faint traces of blood in the doorway. I motion for Manny and have him bring the kid, too. Open the door, kid. But, sir, I said open the door. Saying it more firmly inspires Kenny to take his key card and unlock the door. I open the door and move inside, weapon at the ready. It's a standard hotel room. Bathroom as soon as you enter on the left. No one inside it, though. I move into the main part of the room to find the man in the Hawaiian shirt and his family unpacking suitcases. They're startled by my appearance and scared of the gun, which I lower and put away. We already cleaned the room and the new people are already checked in, I hear Kenny saying in the hallway. You really should lead with information like that, I want to yell. Instead, I identify myself and apologize. I know you're on vacation, but we're going to have to get you another room. So if you don't mind packing back up and try to touch as little as possible, please. His son asks a little too excitedly. Well, yeah, kid, I think you might have. At least someone is having fun on this case. I'd hate to see his therapy bill, though. We get the family moved out, and Manny takes him to the front desk to get another room. I head to the security office to go over the information we have now and to review the security footage. The previous occupant of the room was Edmund Byrne. That name sounds familiar, so I look him up, and the memory comes back. Edmund Byrne was a local kid who went to college here and starred on the football team. He got drafted and went pro, and if memory serves, he's the star of the visiting team playing today. But what was the connection between Alan Winter and Edmund Byrne? I checked my watch and deduced that Byrne is probably on the field right now and won't be available for answering questions for a couple of hours. I call in to have a couple of uniforms bring him in after the game. Just in case, I check the video footage and find Edmund Byrne checking in last night around 9. And he's not alone. Mr. Byrne had a lady friend with him last night. I note the timestamp on the video and call Manny to have him see if he can find out who this woman is. The quality of the video is so horrible, I begin to think it could be a man he's with. I decide that's unlikely, but I certainly can't identify her from this. I also don't know if she stayed with him the whole night, but she might be a witness to whatever happened, or maybe even a suspect. In the meantime, I decide to find out if there is a Mrs. Alan Winter. Unfortunately, there is. Mandy Winter. I get an address and I'm on my way when I get a call from Doc Young. The preliminary autopsy shows that Mr. Winter wasn't in the best shape. His medical records show that he was an asthmatic with horrible vision, and he had a minor heart defect. So it's no surprise there were a minimal number of defensive wounds. When I arrive at the Winter residence, I realize that maybe being a nerdy, scrawny guy might not be so bad. This is a very nice, big house. I stop myself from thinking along those lines too much. Maybe it's Mrs. Winter who makes the money in the family. I don't know yet. I just know one of them, if not both, are very well off. Maybe that's a motive. Mrs. Winter answers the door and is unaware that anything has happened to her husband. After several minutes of consoling her, I ask if she knew anyone who would want to kill her husband. She manages to say,
"No one that I know of. He was such a quiet and unassuming man. He did taxes for a living, but people knew that he wasn't the one to make the tax laws. He helped people whenever he could."
"Ma'am, out of curiosity, do you know an Edmund Byrne?" She smiled at that.
"Eddie? Of course. We did it back in college. I see him whenever he's in town. He's become such a big star. You'd never know it, but he's a bit agoraphobic. He has no problem with stadiums, but things like restaurants and hotels, he always has to be as close to the door as he can get."
That would explain why such a big star wasn't in the penthouse suite. "Ma'am, were you with Mr. Byrne last night at his hotel?"
"I suppose there's no point in hiding it anymore. Yes, whenever he's in town, we get together. I mean, I don't spend the night, but we have a few hours of fun."
"Did Alan know?"
"Of course not. I love Alan and would never want to hurt him. I am much happier with Alan than I ever was with Eddie. It's just that, well, Eddie can be more exciting. Physically. He's only in town once a year, and I guess I indulge in a little... Oh my God, I'm having an affair, aren't I?"
Her expression is genuine. It's as though she hadn't really thought it through until now. She breaks into another round of sobs and talks about how horrible she is and wonders how she could do that to Alan. I'm not good with that sort of thing, but I managed to talk it down a bit and ask if there's anyone she could talk to or stay with until she calms down. She says she'll call her mother, she lives in town, and I think that would do us some good. When I return to the office, I'm greeted by Manny, who hands me a better resolution picture of Mr. Byrne and Mrs. Winter. I don't know who she is yet, but I'm working on it. "That's okay, Manny. It's Mrs. Winter. She was having an affair with Mr. Byrne. I think this case is starting to come together." And speaking of coming together, at that moment, 2 uniformed officers that I don't know bring in a handcuffed Edmund Byrne, still in his uniform and pads. Thankfully, they let him take off his helmet. Guys, what I meant by bring him in after the game was to let him at least get changed. Did you drag him off the field?
"Sorry, Lieutenant."
"We thought time was of the essence." Thankfully, Mr. Byrne seems to see the humor and isn't putting up much of a struggle. Then his smile turns a little evil and he whispers,
"My lawyers are going to have a field day with you."
Oh, for crying out loud. You know what, Eddie? I was going to be nice and let you get changed and cleaned up before we talk. Now, I'm not. Put him in interrogation room 1 and keep him chained up. It's not protocol, but I also wait an hour before I enter the interrogation room. Something about this guy pisses me off. And it's not just the smug, pretty boy smile. It's not that he's having an affair, which I still consider bad form. It's not even the attitude, although that doesn't help. I'm not sure what it is. Maybe it's the jersey from another team. "Mr. Byrne, do you know a Mr. Alan Winter?" Christ on a stick. Is that little dweeb pressing charges? Christ on a stick? That's a new one to me. No, sir. Why don't you tell me what happened last time you saw him? He was always such a geek. I mean, yeah, I'm banging his wife. I do every year when I come to town. She was great in college, and he just wasn't doing it for her, you know what I mean? With each word, I begin to hate this guy a little more. So I guess he finally figured it out. He came to my hotel room last night. He tried to confront me. Have you seen him? I could break him if I sneezed too hard. He pulled a knife and came at me. I turned it around and stick him a couple times before shoving him out the door. What a dweeb. I guess he wants me in jail now. That won't last long. I'll be out by dinner. Actually, you'll be staying a bit longer than that. Mr. Winter is dead. Sticking anyone with a knife is probably going to kill him, you moron. As I leave the room, I realize something. It is his jersey that's bothering me, but the team has nothing to do with it. Alan Winter was an accountant. He knew numbers. So why mumble 5 when he was probably fully aware he was on the second floor? Because it wasn't the floor number. It was the jersey number. He was telling us who killed him. I want to thank you for listening to today's story, and I also want to thank Oingo Boingo for, well, yeah, okay, they did the intro music to the story, and no, I don't have permission to do that, but hopefully they'll be nice about it because this is a good cause. Getting people to write. We need people to write and give us more stories, more original stories, so we don't end up with yet another reincarnation of the Ghostbusters. Because that didn't turn out well, did it? Anyway, if you have a new story, send it in, submit at 2pagesofmystery.com, and until next week, stay safe out there, and always keep 'em guessing.